And dive in. The major question going into this first debate was whether the 8 candidates on stage could or would do something to change the basic pattern or trajectory of this race that's so far been dominated by the frontrunner Donald Trump, who skipped tonight, citing his commanding lead. Well, with the debate wrapping up, it appears for now that the status quo probably will remain. No candidate on stage substantively changed their stance on the former president. Trump's name was actually barely mentioned by anyone in the entire first hour of the debate. And then this is how the second hour kicked off.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would. Just hold on.
Yeah, you saw that. It all sort of, first hand that pops up is Vivek, and then people start watching, and then DeSantis, then Pence, and yeah, we're confused by Chris Christie ourselves. But Ron DeSantis, the candidate currently closest to Trump in the polls, largely pulled his punches when given the chance to draw a contrast with Trump. Here he is dodging a question tied to the events surrounding the January 6th insurrection, when the vice president refused Trump's demands to interfere with the certification of the election.
But Governor DeSantis, do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th?
So here's what we need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agents.
But that's not
I
the
will do
question.
that.
That's not the question.
I know, but here's the thing. This election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025, when the next president is going to take office. I've answered this before.
So, yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing. Is this what we're going to be focusing on going forward? The rehashing of this? I'll tell you,
Governor
the
DeSantis.
Democrats would love that.
So without Trump on stage, it was newcomer Vivek Ramaswamy, the Trump acolyte, who was a popular target all night. In many ways, he was perhaps the surrogate that everybody else thought they could use as a Trump punching bag on that stage. He took up Trump's defense, which the audience cheered as he sparred with Chris Christie on Trump's conduct.
Here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay? Now, whether or not you believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States. And you know, this is the great thing about this country. Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth.
President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact. And Chris Christie, honest to God, your claim that Donald Trump is motivated by vengeance and grievance would be a lot more credible if your entire campaign were not based on vengeance and grievance against one man. And if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they could just change the channel to MSNBC right now.
In fact, Ramaswamy's presence and the attention and ire he seemed to draw from everybody else on that stage was easily one of the bigger stories of the night. As the most Trump-like candidate, he seemed to suck up the oxygen on stage as he tried to capture the anti-establishment and anti-government screeds and grievances that first catapulted Trump to the top of the Republican field back in 2015. Here are some of the biggest hits of the field against Ramaswamy.
Let us be honest as Republicans. I'm the only person on the stage who isn't bought and paid for, so I can say this. The climate change agenda is a hoax. The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare independence for it. And the reality is, the anti-carbon agenda is the wet blanket on our economy. And so the reality is, more people are dying of bad climate change policies than they are of actual climate change.
Governor Haley, are you bought and paid for?
Down by 98%
Hold on.
in the last century.
Listen. Hold on.
I've had enough. I've had enough already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT standing up here. And the last person in one of these debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Come over and give me a hug. Give me a hug just like you did to Obama.
The same type of amateur.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
the
bear
same
hug,
type of amateur.
So if you're keeping score at home, by the way, the top 3 candidates in the polls.
It's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border, and frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
I want to just briefly address Pence. Vice President Pence. I have a newsflash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990.
Did I say
the real threat? You talked about the communists, and the real communists that we have to address right now.
Do you not have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are?
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere
You've made
of
your point,
influence.
Vice President.
I'm sorry if I insulted him by calling him a communist. He is a dictator and a murderer, and the United States of America needs to stand against authoritarianism.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.